A new rule might be on the way. Here's how it could affect the Ducks.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all, especially my everydayers, for helping make that the case. 5-5 is on the table in a serious way. I'll discuss what that means for Oregon, where Matayo and Teitum could stack up all time for the Ducks, and a few Ducks take on Tokyo, where they now know about Dante Moore, and soon everybody else will too, if they don't already. But first, the story of the day: the NCAA D1 cabinet voted unanimously to advance to the kind of final vote stage of sorts the idea of giving 5-5 eligibility to all NCAA athletes, and obviously, yes, that includes all of Oregon's athletes. So I'm going to keep this discussion to football for now. This can be applied to any Oregon sport. The impact that this would have, should it get approved, which it should, and I think it's a very good idea, the impact that this would have on Oregon's roster is minimal to non-existent. And the reason I say that is if this goes through, what could happen, this would technically be possible, is players who are in their fourth year right now could gain a fifth year of eligibility if they're willing to go to court and sort those things out. They'd probably win, maybe, if they were going to spend that amount of time. And players who are in, rising true sophomore positions, Nasir Wyatt, Brandon Finney, Dacorian Moore. There are others, but those are the ones that pop into my head right now. Those players could theoretically, if they want, play at Oregon for 5 years. That is, if this passes, on the table. There's no way that's going to happen. Boy, it would be awesome if it did. But guys that could get extra eligibility out of this and add time to their Oregon career are going to be going off to the NFL draft. So it would be fantastic if between Matayo Uiagalelei and Teitum Tuioti, even one of them decided, if this passes, you know what? I'm not ready for the NFL yet. I want a fifth year of college football. I want to come back to the Ducks. I'll say yes to either one of those guys in a heartbeat or less. But unfortunately, but also fortunately, every guy that could make a big impact or benefit, I just see him going off to the NFL. Oregon's lucky to have some of these guys as it is, Matayo and Teitum included. So for those who have not been keeping up with this particular suggestion, I've talked about it a lot over on Locked On College Football, but the 5-5 eligibility model would start for the 2026 class and for everybody in 2027, but then current players and the 26 class that would be affected would have the chance to operate under the new model for their eligibility or continue under the old one, and they would determine what is in the best interest of that particular student athlete. 5-5 says from the time you graduate high school or turn 19, basically you have 5 years to play 5 seasons of college football. This does not invoke any transfer portal restrictions. This does not say anything else. That's all it is. The goal, and I think this is a good goal from the NCAA, is to try and standardize the eligibility across college sports. It is complex. It is inconsistent. It is not good for coaches. I don't think fans particularly enjoy it. And by the way, it's not very good for players either, many of whom have to spend time in a courtroom, find money to be able to be in a courtroom. Some of them don't win, then they're left in limbo. And there's all this sort of stuff. And those, I'm just referring to high profile cases. I know there are even smaller ones in which guys are left sitting there going, well, I don't know if I'm able to play or not. So giving everybody 5 years, and you can play for 5 years. It's not 4 to play in 5, it's 5 in 5. But this means no red shirts, no gray shirts, nothing. The only exemptions that you can get for delaying when your 5-year eligibility window would end there are 3. Pregnancy, military service, religious mission. So Gatlin Bear, for instance, would not come back from his mission as he is this year. If this rule had been applied several years ago, he would come into this season, and even though he's older, he would have 5 years. That's the anomaly, though. Nobody else is actually going to be able to do that. And the total number of athletes that those exemptions will apply to, I think, is going to wind up being pretty small. At Oregon, it's a very, very small number. So I don't think this will radically impact recruiting strategy, roster building, or anything like that in a major way. And guys that could come back or that you would love to have back for a 5th year if they became eligible, if this goes through, like Poncho. Oregon's lucky to have Poncho as their starting center right now. He's a Remington Award finalist last year. He might win the award this year. If that happens, he's not coming back to college for another year. Heck, Brandon Finney and Decorian Moore are probably going to be 3 and done. If you get a 4th year out of guys like that, it'd be a major win. So the number of football players, or frankly, any athlete, when you have an unlimited number of transfers that's going to commit to Oregon out of high school and stay for all 5 years, pretty small number. I think the most common type of player, frankly, that would do that are the Will Stratton types, the Bryce Betcher types, the guys that were walk-ons once upon a time, or that were not football players necessarily, but have become football players. And Bryce Betcher, of course, grew into having a big role. I don't think Will Stratton is doing that, but Will Stratton's probably on the 2 or 3 deep at linebacker going into this year, probably closer to 3rd on the depth chart is where I'd put him going into this season. I think that's the most common type of guy that would stay out of school for 5 years. You saw Nate Biddle do this in basketball, but he had to get eligible. And there are no red shirts or nothing. The downside of this, and it's really the only downside, is that players who have careers plagued by injuries are not able to play the same number of sporting events as everybody else. And while I freely admit that that's a part of it, I think the positives vastly outweigh the negatives here. I think this would be good for college sports as a whole. I think it would make things a lot easier for everybody involved to just know, okay, you have 5 years. You don't have to not play in a certain number of games to preserve a red shirt. Like, remember in 20, what season am I trying to refer to? 24. Yeah, when sometimes 25. Sometimes we'd see Luke Moga come in. Sometimes we'd see Austin Novosad come in because they got to protect the red shirt of those guys. There's none of that anymore. And look, it might change the calculus for some players if you're not able to redshirt. But if your plan was to redshirt all along, I don't think that alters whether or not you want to go to a particular school or not. Because I would have redshirted under the old rule. Well, now you have 5 years to play if you want. So you have a year. Basically, everybody gets a redshirt year, but you can play. And if you get hurt and you lose a season like Evan Stewart did last year, everybody gets that extra 5th year. So overall impact on Oregon, I don't think there are going to be a lot of guys. You might see a couple, perhaps, that try to fight this thing out if that are currently on the roster, that maybe don't have NFL prospects that would like to come back, but they've only been with Oregon for 4 years, like Jerry Mixon might fit into that particular mold. All right, that could work. I think Oregon's got plenty of linebacker depth if they don't bring Jerry Mixon back for the 2027 season. But hey, he's experienced. He's going to be one of your top 2 linebackers this year. I can see that being a benefit for sure. But this would be a pretty substantial rule change in college sports. Hence why I wanted to bring it up on today's show. But overall, I just think Oregon brings guys in, and by year 4, from a high school recruiting standpoint, I think by the time year 4 comes to an end for them, I think they have either transferred out or they are ready to go play in the NFL. That's the most common outcome there. So, curious what you guys have to say. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter at LockedOnDucks, however you want to get in touch. Fascinating question came to me about Oregon's 2 edge rushers that I was just talking about. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's not helpful. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations, like Oregon, know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working towards the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. You don't want to be scattered. You don't want to be all over the place, discombobulated, not on the same page, and any other number of metaphors or descriptions that I could give you to describe what I've already said. You don't want to be managing this over here and that over there and this on this. Oh my gosh, I get confused just thinking about it. That's why you want to go get Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter. That's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. odoo.com/lockedon. Check them out at odoo.com/lockedon. Thank you for making this show your first listen every day. If you tune into every episode and want to level up, check out the Locked On Everydayer Club. For $5 a month or $50 for the year, you get access to ad-free audio on podcast, access to our members-only Discord chat, and other perks as well. Click the link in the description of this episode and become a Locked On Everydayer Club member today. A second segment sip of ice-cold Oregon water is maybe my favorite part about being back in the U.S. and doing shows. And the fact that I get to answer fantastic mailbag and SSA questions and takes from all of you out there. If you want to submit one, lots of ways to get in touch. Check out the description of this episode. If you are new here, SSA, that's Spencer Scale of Agreement. You send me a take. I tell you 1 through 10, half numbers included, how much I agree and why. This one, boy, if this comes to fruition, I think Oregon's going to roll to the national championship. SSA, Matayo Uiagalelei and Teitum Tuioti will finish their careers as number 1 and 2 on the all-time career sack leaders list. Now, I am wondering, person who sent this take for SSA, first of all, thank you for doing so. I appreciate it. Did you look at what this actually will require? Because it's a lot. I mean, a lot. The all-time leader in sacks in Oregon history is one Nick Reed, who I remember watching as a kid. 29 and a half sacks over 4 seasons. Number 2, a guy I don't recall watching because I wasn't born yet, Ernest Jones. Over 4 years, 1990 to 1993 with 29. So the top 2 marks all time, program history, 29.5 and 29. Through 3 seasons, Matayo Uiagalelei has racked up 18.5 sacks. So for this to come true, both of them would have to get to 30, right? Theoretically, that would meet the requirement for this SSA take, is if they were both at 30 all time, then they would be tied for first, I guess, but they would be 1 and 2. So Matayo would have to rack up 11.5 sacks this year. That's not impossible. It would be more than he's ever had in his career. His best was 10.5 back in 2024, which led the Big Ten. He had only 6 this past season. Teitum Tuioti, though, just had a career high 9.5 sacks in 2025 to bring his total for his career up to 17. So what this SSA is asking is, will Oregon have one of their stud edge rushers get 11.5 sacks and the other one in the same season rack up 13? Now, that popped something into my head that I am double checking here as I record this show. Last year, the best pair of edge rushers was either Miami with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor or Texas Tech. David Bailey and Romello Height were first and I believe second round draft picks respectively. Bailey was something like the number 2 overall pick, I believe it was. He was inside the top 5. Pretty sure he was inside the top 3. He had 14.5 sacks. Pretty sure that led college football. Romello Height, who was really good, had 9.5. So Matayo and Teitum, got to do some math here in real time, they need 11.5 and 13 respectively, meaning they need 24.5 sacks combined. Last year, the best edge tandem that Oregon faced combined for 24 sacks between the two of them. And one of them was a top 5 pick in the draft. Now, Miami, on the other hand, had 2 very talented edge rushers last year as well. And their stats are, at the moment, taking a little harder to look. So that alone is going to put this below a 5. That is a lot. That is a lot of production. Oh, there it is. Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor last year. Again, these were last season the best of the best in college football. Matayo and Teitum were both very good. All 4 of these guys were better as pass rushers than Oregon's 2 guys last year. And the sack numbers will tell you that, and the NFL draft community will tell you that. Now, they're still in college, developing for another year, and a chance to go out and shine. That's great. I'm really happy about it. Mesidor had 12.5 sacks, and Ruben Bain had 9.5. That is 22. So the 2 best edge tandems combined to average 23 sacks between the 2 of them. And they need more than that. Do they have the talent to get it done? Yes. It's still really hard to see. You need a lot of things to go right. I mean, Matayo's got to be able to finish better when he's at the quarterback. Here's the other wrinkle, though. How many sacks are these guys going to lose to Nasir Wyatt? That is a number we do not yet have the answer to. And Nasir Wyatt would have a serious chance to fly up the Oregon all-time sack list in his career if Matayo and Teitum hadn't both come back because Nasir Wyatt would probably start. Now, he might rack up 8 sacks this year, and if he were to stay for 2 more years, he could have back-to-back double-digit sack seasons. Sure, he could push for that record, for Nick Reed's record of 29.5. But Matayo 11.5, I would love to see it. Teitum getting 13, that'd be really cool. I'm putting this at a 2 on the SSA. But if it comes to fruition, might just be the year. Gosh, I hope that it is. This is the year, though, the Ducks go international. It's so very Oregon to do what they are doing right now. If you didn't know, Dante Moore and a cohort of other Ducks, including Dan Lanning, are in Tokyo. Teaching football, getting experience, seeing the world. I can't wait to see how they've documented the entire thing. I went to Japan when I was a very little kid. I think I was 6 years old. I would love to go back. I have to tell you, after my most recent return travel experience from overseas, I'm not anxious to do that at the moment. One day, though, I do want to go back, if not only because when I went, like a lot of 6-year-olds, my palate was too simple, so I didn't enjoy seafood. Now, if you put a sushi roll in front of me, it's gone in less than 2 minutes. Easy. And going to the source on that, I tell you, I'd love to go. So, I don't know if other programs do things like this. It's reminiscent of the poster of Bo Nix in New York City. He was a Heisman finalist that year, by the way. It's reminiscent of my personal favorite so far, the giant inflatable duck at Oregon's first Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis. I remember so vividly being in the media room when that first got blown up on the river, and everyone inside kind of realized, wait, is this is like out, this is downtown, and there was no signage on it or necessarily a specific purpose other than, you're thinking about Oregon. You're talking about Oregon. This is just one of those things. So Dante Moore is on a billboard in Tokyo. Sure, why not? Why not? These are just the sort of thing. I just smile. Like, you can see if you're watching on YouTube, like, I just smile at these things. You know, if it's your team doing it, I think you can see the humor or really harmless nature of it. And it's a reason that some other teams or programs might really not like Oregon. Because why are you there? Why are you here? Well, now you're talking about us. Well, now we're in your heads. It's one of those things. So Dante Moore and everybody are across the pond in the other direction. So I just wanted to shout that out because I think it's fantastic and kind of hilarious, and traveling is fun when you don't have challenges. I'll leave it at that. So hopefully, for their sake, travel goes smooth, food is really good, and nothing bad comes of it there. Another thing I wanted to bring up that is slightly fun, but also on a slightly more serious note. I have lamented every time that I have seen something in this particular vein this offseason, and this is merely the latest example. EA College Football 27 released their team rankings, their overall team rankings, and they put Oregon at number 1. Now, my everydayers out there know that there's an illogical nature to that being my innate response, given that I am somebody who several times, as recently as, I don't know, a week ago, said that 2026 is natty or bust for Oregon, which it is. It doesn't mean that I want to have all the preseason attention. If Oregon were to come out and be the preseason number one team in the AP poll, you would see me start pulling those little, I'm losing the word. They're made of metal. They keep a train track in place. Pins? I don't know. I can't. Anyway, it's too late at night. Anyway, I would start pulling those off the track of Oregon's hype train. I'd say, nope, we're done. No, we're out. Can't do it. Last year's preseason number one was Texas, and they didn't look like a competent football team until about week 7. Granted, Oregon has a more proven quarterback this year than Texas had going into last year. So they got that going for them for sure. But there's a very left brain, right brain side of this for me. Right brain says, stop hyping up Oregon, everybody. Don't do that. Don't make them the highest rated overall team, EA. Don't make them your number one team in your post-spring top 25, Joel Klatt. Everyone else, stop mentioning how Oregon could win the national championship this year and it wouldn't surprise you. Guess what? It wouldn't surprise me either. And now we have gotten to Spencer's left brain, which says, of course EA is justified in looking at this Oregon roster and saying, yeah, it's better than all the other ones if you're looking at it through a video game lens. And by the way, when that game gets out, boy, Oregon's offense is going to be awesome to play with, because what do you not have to work with there? Elite quarterback, he can move a little bit. I have it on good authority. They are going to make it a little bit easier to move around with the quarterback, so you don't feel like you're stuck in cement, or at least I hope that is the case. We've got an insane lineup of receivers to play with if you go roll out Oregon in that game. So yeah, I get it. I fully understand. They're fully justified in doing it. I just wish they wouldn't. There's nothing wrong with a preseason number 4 ranking. That's what I would like the AP voters to do. Any AP voters out there listening to or watching this show, give Oregon a nice little preseason number 4. Heck, you can put them as low as you want. I'd even be okay. I could stomach number 2. That would make me a little uneasy. 4 would be great. 4 would be great. 5 is the seed they were in the playoff last year, so I don't want to see that number for too long. 4 would be good. I'm okay with that. Teams you'd have ahead of them: Ohio State, Indiana just won the national championship. Texas. Everybody really likes Texas. Off that 10-3 season last year. I mean, Texas was good, but they weren't as good as they were supposed to be. Anyway, let's wrap on a lighter note with a little bit of trivia here. So, if you ever want to submit a trivia question, which I'm always down for, you figure out a way to get in touch with me, of which there are many. And remember, this requires you guys, because I can't come up with a trivia question for myself on account of the fact that if I know the answer, well, it kind of defeats the purpose. So here we go. Trivia. Which 2 former Duck head coaches are in the College Hall of Fame? College Hall of Fame. Now, I noticed that the word football isn't in this clue. Is that an accident? Or is that on purpose? Perhaps I should have clarified before putting it into the show. Okay, we're okay. We're good. So, Rich Brooks, Mike Bellotti come to mind for football. Of the 2, Bellotti has a lot more victories, I believe, or at least a much higher winning percentage. And I believe there's a threshold for winning percentage that you have to get into the Hall of Fame. And Rich Brooks, though I've had him on the show before, absolute legend. There were some rough years. There were some rough years. It was a different time. This says Duck head coaches. So which other head coaches are in the College Hall of Fame? Dana Altman will be one day. I don't think he's there already. No, see, this is former Duck head coaches. So I'm going to go Bellotti as one. I mean, is Ernie Kent in the College Hall of Fame? I don't think so. Like, do I go back to a Len Casanova or something? I don't, no. There's no way, right? Can't be a baseball coach. That program just got going in 2009 again. I don't think there's a softball coach that would be in there. No, those are the best guesses I can come up with. And I feel like it's one, but not both, but I don't know which one exactly. So I will lock in final answer, Rich Brooks and Mike Bellotti. Can you ever really go wrong guessing those guys with a question like that? I'm fascinated to see this answer, though. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And go Ducks.